haya pasado esto. Como pueden ver, varios pescados, miren. En vivo y en directo, señoras y señores, a través de las pantallas de Don Freddy Ready. Oh, la media caga, no te lo puedo creer. El mar se recogió aquí en 𝗘𝗏𝗏𝗏. No sé qué estaba. ¡Buena, señor! Los pelícanos ahí a orillas del mar. Lo más probable es que por el sismo haya pasado esto. Como pueden ver, varios pescados, miren. En vivo y en directo, señoras y señores, a través de las pantallas de Don Freddy Ready. Oh, la media caga, no te lo puedo creer. El mar se recogió aquí en 𝗘𝗏𝗏𝗏. No sé qué estaba. Buena, señorita Sole. Buena, pues cachupín. Aquí estamos en 𝗘𝗏𝗏𝗏. Como pueden ver, los pelícanos ahí a orillas del mar. Lo más probable es que por el sismo haya pasado esto. Como pueden ver, varios pescados, miren. En vivo y en directo, señoras y señores, a través de las pantallas de Don Freddy Ready. Oh, la media caga, no te lo puedo creer. El mar se recogió aquí en 𝗘𝗏𝗏𝗏. No sé qué estaba. Buena, señorita Sole. Buena, pues cachupín. La cagó, qué chucha.
Tonight we know the financial cost if you deliberately disobey the federal transportation mask mandate. The Transportation Security Administration says the first offense is going to cost you $250, and that can go up to $1,500 for repeated violations. These penalties could also be in addition to other fines that might be imposed on you by operators. For example,
Oklahoma
U.S. Airlines.
earthquake. Everybody's saying, did you feel it? Facebook, everybody's talking. I'm sure folks talking at lunch this day. I can tell you that I'm upstairs on the second floor of my home here in Jinx. We sure did feel it. A whole lot of shaking going on here. Brandon Woolley back at the studio. Brandon, I know you felt that earthquake right before the show as well.
Certainly, Julie, about 11:48:49 is when the studio shook here in Brookside. I looked up and the studio lights were shaking. It's certainly not the first earthquake I've been through here in the studio, but anything over a 4, you're going to feel shaking here in the studio and all across Oklahoma. Now, it has been upgraded to a 4.2 from the USGS. This located just to the west of Interstate 35, about 27 miles west-northwest of Stillwater. On the line this afternoon is our state seismologist, Dr. Jake Walter. Thanks so much, Dr. Walter, for joining us.
Happy to be here.
All right, Dr. Walter, we had a few 3s going on during the 10 o'clock hour and then the big 4.2 just before noon. So what happened?
Yeah, so we are observing seismicity in an area that has historically been linked to wastewater disposal activities. And as you mentioned before, there was a 3.5 and a 3.7 around 10:17, separated by about a minute apart. And then subsequent from those earthquakes, we saw a small number of aftershocks, and then we had the larger event that you already mentioned. And we've already recorded 3 aftershocks, 3 smaller events from that event, and we can expect the aftershocks to continue. Now, the seismic hazard in the area is elevated, and we'll continue monitoring that situation.
Now, with your studies of seismology, Dr. Walter, are you expecting another bigger one to occur or just smaller aftershocks
in response to today's Oklahoma earthquakes, including a 4.2 magnitude quake near Enid? The Corporation Commission is directing several wastewater disposal wells in the area to cease operations or reduce volume. Researchers credit similar actions with the sharp decrease in Oklahoma's seismic activity since 2015. Now, we are working for you tonight with team coverage of the quakes. We begin with our earthquake expert, meteorologist Brandon Woolley. Brandon, what can you tell us about today's quakes?
Well, Karen, the magnitude 4.2 earthquake happened just before noon today and is our first big earthquake of 2021. Seismologists are carefully monitoring the activity in that area because we could see more earthquakes later today and even over the next couple of days.
جراد وسمع من الخيمة دمر كل شيء دخل على البيضة والله عدم شوف
A standoff between police and inmates at the St. Louis City Justice Center is over. Officials say this all started when a corrections officer got into a scuffle with a detainee overnight and then was jumped by other detainees who broke out of their cells. Those inmates then released other inmates, and then they started throwing fires and actually throwing objects out of
disturbance at the Justice Center in St. Louis. News 4 just confirming that St. Louis Mayor and Public Safety Director are at the City Justice Center, or the City Jail as some might call it, in downtown St. Louis, where some inmates have been seen setting small fires and throwing debris out of windows there. News 4's Julia Avery joins us live from the scene outside the Justice Center. Julia, this is right across from City Hall there on Tucker. What are you seeing
comes
right
out
now?
of the windows, and this started at 6 a.m. So for 2 hours now, those inmates have been up there chanting, while the people below are chanting as well. The Justice Center, as you said, is downtown right across from City Hall, and we have confirmed that Mayor Lyda Krewson and the City Public Safety Director Jimmy Edwards are inside trying to negotiate with these prisoners. Now, this is at least the third disturbance at the Justice Center since December. Right now, there are no reports of any injuries, but there are several police cars on scene, fire trucks, and as I said, burning debris is coming from these windows. The inmates are throwing out of the windows and chanting, and it's just as I said, surreal sight to see as the people below cheer them on. But as I said, no injuries reported right now. We are obviously going to stay on scene and do live updates on social as well as our News 4 app. So keep an eye on that.
The Supreme Court lifting California's ban on indoor church services, ruling that Governor Newsom's order violates the Constitution. Justices say California churches can resume indoor services, but only at 25% capacity. They ruled singing and chanting can be restricted as well.
Right here at 5:30, a heads up. If you're flying somewhere starting tomorrow, you're going to have to wear a mask. The TSA is going to be enforcing a federal mask mandate at the airports and on the planes. As tonight, 𝗘𝗔𝗥𝗧𝗛 tells us here tonight, those who refuse to wear one could face a civil penalty.
Kentucky has had a mask mandate for months, so SDF says travelers who've been coming through here have for the most part been complying with the face covering rules.
We're just going to continue to keep those proactive practices to do what we can to fly healthy.
Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport says all of its airlines have already been requiring passengers to wear a mask.
Now to a mystery that is keeping a lot of people up at night in the Bakersfield area. People complaining of what appears to be or sounds like loud explosions in their neighborhoods with no explanation. Social media platforms, and I can tell you from personal experience, my neighborhood is rocked with these nightly explosions on almost a weekly basis, and these are not explosions from your garden variety fireworks. We checked in with the Bakersfield Police Department and the Kern County Sheriff's Office, but authorities tell us they are not currently working. It is not clear tonight what or who is causing them.
The house is rattling, you can feel the ground rattling, and it's booming all the time, and it's kind of like what's going on, you don't know what's happening.
Get to the bottom of the booms, but as Betty Wynn reports, they aren't any closer to the truth.
So in the face of that mockery, a new plan was hatched. They've changed the title though. It's now called the Great Reset. And here is what the WEF _Ubermeister has to say about it.
So in terms of changing our mindset, and here what is at the forefront is to create a new model, a new concept, a new definition of capitalism. Capitalism in the old definition comprises only financial capital, but actually human and social capital is and of course natural capital is as important as...
The Great Reset is only a new term to mask their previous failures to control economic and social foundations.
They know Sophia the robot from her speeches at the United Nations or appearances on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. But this year she's going mainstream. Her creator says thousands of Sophias could be rolling out of factories by the end of this year and heading to buyers all over the world.
For our top story today, a surge of student suicides has pushed schools in Las Vegas to reopen.
Let's remember something. This is the largest health crisis in over 100 years in our country. We were not ready for this. We weren't prepared for it, and now we're in the middle of it.
Good evening, I'm reporting tonight from a home in 𝗘𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗏, standing in front of ruins behind us as the wind swirls. Just bricks and rubble are left here after the ferocious, fast-moving fire wiped out at least 81 homes, including this one. A couple own this property. They had workers living here, helping them run 300 hectares. But we begin with the heartache today, as residents started to find out if their homes were still standing or gone forever.
A veranda with a view into a fiery hell. Greg Whiteside faced off with these flames to save a neighbour's home on Reed Road, 𝗘𝗥𝗧𝗏. He also saved the neighbours. It's been shared online to show that everyone needs a fire plan.
Hey, man.
The conditions change so quickly. In the overwhelming scale of destruction, small things stand out. 2 outdoor settings, a blackened barbecue and a melted esky. Seemingly insignificant signs of lives once lived, left amongst the lifeless. 81 homes so far destroyed, building after building, and what you can't see, priceless memories. Like those held by Tom McCallick and Tam Fitzner.
There's nothing left, it's all gone, so it's it's a bit hard to deal with at the moment.
One of their homes, farm machinery and hundreds of acres of land.
Back at home, avalanches continue to take the lives of Coloradans. The bodies of 3 Eagle County government officials found after an avalanche Monday. Another skier died after an avalanche Thursday south of Vail. The heightened threat remains this weekend. And meteorologist Alex O'Brien joins us to explain why conditions have been so bad.
Colorado mountain communities are rejoicing with fresh snow this past week, but the ever-present danger of avalanches must remain top of mind. Over a foot of snow doused the mountains in a matter of hours Wednesday night, and several more inches will fall through Saturday, ushering excited Coloradans into the weekend.
So we had early season snow, and it didn't get very deep. It's been weeks since November. And now every time we get a big load on top of that week's snow, we get a pretty big avalanche event.
8 skiers have died in Colorado this year, 4 just this week. Over 60 avalanches have been reported in the past 5 days. And Colorado's wide open wilderness can lead you to unknowingly putting yourself
coverage
in
tonight
danger.
continues with Mason Morrow and more on the link between earthquakes and wastewater disposal.
Seismic activity in the Sooner State. Trembles hours east felt in Tulsa. The Oklahoma Corporation Commission oversees oil and gas activity in the state. A spokesperson tells 2 Works for You the agency is investigating water waste disposal wells near Covington, Oklahoma.
There are wells in the area that have had to reduce the amount of produced water that they injected into those disposals deep into the Earth's surface, far past aquifers and away from drinking water.
Hydraulic fracturing, better known as fracking, happens after oil drilling. Drillers pump oil, water, chemicals, and sand into rock to produce more oil. This causes hazardous wastewater to rise from the ground. The OCC says the water is loaded into trucks, driven off-site to wells, and shot deep down into the earth again. This raises pressure levels and can force strain on fault lines, increasing the likelihood of earthquakes. But fracking is the focus at the national level. President Joe Biden signed an executive order to ban new leases for fracking on federally owned land. The OCC says that shouldn't have much of an impact here.
From what we have learned this far is that it would affect leases that are happening in federal land, and there is no federal land for oil and gas leasing in Oklahoma to speak of.
That's Mason Morrow reporting. Now, the Corporation Commission can't say the same for states like New Mexico, which they say rely heavily on federal land for oil. President Biden has said he will not ban all fracking.
The roads because of snow and rain turned even worse for a driver whose SUV was swallowed by a huge sinkhole in Philadelphia. The hole appeared on the 5500 block of North 11th Street in the city's Logan neighborhood and dragged the car down. Fortunately, no one was inside the car at the time and no injuries were reported. The trouble was compounded by a 12-inch water main break that sent streams of water gushing into the air here. At least one residential building was reported to be without water. Crews are working to get the water back on as soon as possible.
All right, of course, the big story.
Truck in a sinkhole in a water main break. This is in the Midway district, and this is a live look at it from Sky Fox. So it's Channel and Jupiter, and those streets are shut down. Police are there. The helicopter's up over it, but it does appear that that there is a sinkhole with some sort of water transportation break that is under the road, and it does appear there is a truck there. No one's in it, I would presume. But looks like they've got the waterworks people headed there. And again, this is Midway District at Jupiter and Channel, in both of those lanes. Both of those streets are blocked right now.
Drought conditions and the threat of another active wildfire season looming. We need more. Meteorologist Alan Rose joins us live from the Springs Airport with a preview of the month ahead. Alan.
And Elizabeth, February is typically one of our snowiest months, and that's a good thing because, as you mentioned, we need more. Now, before we get to that February outlook, let's take a look at the very latest drought condition map here in Colorado. I want to bring your attention to this. Lots of oranges, reds, and even those dark reds indicating severe, extreme, and exceptional drought. And the area of extreme drought right over parts of Jefferson, Douglas, Elbert, and even northern El Paso County. You can see Pueblo County. Here we have areas of severe, extreme, and moderate drought, with lesser drought conditions being experienced currently out across the northern Sangres, the Wet Mountains, and the San Luis Valley.
Temperatures dipped to below zero this weekend. Close to 300 people were without power for several hours overnight in Chisago County. A spokesman with Xcel Energy says crews worked throughout the night to safely restore services. He went on to say that power lines contract and tighten in weather like this, which may lead to a power outage. As soon as we received information on the outage, we sent employees to the location to repair the lines and restore service. Crews are still working to determine an exact cause, but according to Xcel Energy, it's possible extreme cold weather may have been a factor. But while several people were without power this morning, Xcel Energy is issuing tips to help keep people safe during the cold weather. In the case of a power outage, experts say building a home emergency kit filled with flashlights, battery-powered radios, backup phone chargers, and bottled water. Experts also suggest stocking easy-to-eat foods and beverages, storing a backup heating device or generator, and dressing in layers or stockpiling blankets to stay warm until power is restored. In Chisago County, Charmaine Nero, KARE 11 News.
We've included additional tips to stay safe during the cold weather and energy-saving tips on our website.
Living at a homeless camp set up in a Salt Lake City man's front yard passed away this morning. The cause of death is still under investigation.
Fox 13's Diego Romo spoke with the Salt Lake City Police Department, and he has more details on this story.
Salt Lake City police say emergency crews were called to the homeless camp just after 6 o'clock Sunday morning.
When medical arrived, they found the 45-year-old female in the tent that had passed away.
Salt Lake City resident Darren Mann opened his front yard to homeless individuals about a week ago.
I really wanted to create this space as a haven for people, but it's become very apparent to me that we have to come up with a community solution that's lasting.
Mann plans to start a GoFundMe campaign to build a tiny home village to help house those experiencing homelessness.
If we can come up with the funds as a community and we can start coming up with a community solution, then the city
While we were pulling him out of the water,
the ice was cracking beneath our feet.
Tyson Morrill describes the frightening moments when he helped rescue a snowmobiler in Hebron. Yesterday, 3 machines fell through the ice on Newfound Lake while Morrill was fishing nearby.
The area that they drove on was open water less than a week ago.
It just so happens Morrill teaches ice safety training. As his friends called 911, he grabbed rope, threw it to the one person still in the water, and yelled commands on how to get out.
I believe the gentleman didn't have a lot more time to hold on. He was really struggling. It was only about his chin and up was above the water, and he could barely hold on to the edge of the ice.
They pulled him to safety with fire crews not far behind. That close call, not the only one recently. In the past few days, Fish and Game says there have been snowmobile crashes and injuries in Barnstead, Deerfield, Berlin, and Brookline.
A lot of people are out buying sleds, snowmobiles up, mainly because it's a good way to go out and social distance and ride snowmobiles.
Officials say that inexperience, coupled with recent snowfall, is leading to an uptick in accidents.
Even though we've had some really good cold snaps, I'd still caution people. Make sure you know there's good ice out there. Check it every time you go out. Just because you see tracks on the ice doesn't mean it's safe.
Especially this coming weekend with the Derby, there's going to be other scenarios like this, so people really need to check the ice as they go.
And if you are going to be on the ice, Fish and Game recommending 8 to 12 inches of thick ice, and be sure to watch out for areas that are covered by snow.
Page
that
is
snow
now
can
set
make
up
it
to
hard
help
to
with
tell
funeral expenses for 16-year-old Renee Hill, who died in a sledding accident this weekend in Niagara County. Nearly $17,000 has been raised so far. Good evening to you. I'm Allie Toohey. Family and friends are devastated by Hill's death. Police say Hill and her 3-year-old cousin were tubing at Bond Lake Park in Lewiston yesterday when they slammed into a tree. 7 Eyewitness News reporter Olivia Proya spoke with the victims' parents, who are still trying to cope with their sudden and heartbreaking loss.
December 10th, 2004. That's the day Alexis Kraft and Richard Hill's lives changed for the better.
She was our whole world.
Renee Hill was 16 years old, a sophomore at Niagara Wheatfield High School, the oldest of 4 children.
She was a mama bear for sure. She could get them in line real quick, but she was loving, and they all loved her.
Her parents say Renee loved lacrosse. Her coach, Joe Kizga, says she was quiet but intimidating, a strong, silent leader. He says on the field, everyone feared Renee, but off the field, she was an absolute
Record-setting
sweetheart.
wildfires are becoming a regular occurrence in the West, but the trend also threatens people across the country as hazardous smoke pollutes the air. Researchers told reporter Amanda Brandeis years of air pollution progress could soon be erased.
You guys, let's go! Come on, man!
Through shaky cell phone video are moments of chaos.
Right there!
Caught in the grips of wildfire.
Let's go!
60 miles south, Charles Gregg watched as a different fire inched closer to his family.
We got the call that said, you need to be on evacuation standby.
A call he never expected, living in his Northern California suburb.
The light went off. What are we going to do?
Their home was spared, but the city remained apocalyptic as smoke lingered for weeks under the red sun.
After a couple of weeks, I had an episode where I woke up one night and couldn't breathe.
Diagnosed with COPD 3 years ago, his chronic lung condition had been mild up until then.
My oxygen was down in the low 80% range, and I was literally gasping for air.
Wildfires release toxic particles small enough to penetrate a person's lungs and enter the bloodstream, increasing the risk of heart attack and stroke.
This is deadly air pollution.
Michael Juarez says a nationwide effort to fight this pollution began with the Clean Air Act of 1990.
Tonight with this grass fire in Lakewood that could be seen all over the Denver metro. We have an update that's just in. Firefighters say they now have it under control.
Yeah, but right now some evacuations are still in place along Morrison Road near the Fox Hollow Golf Course, and firefighters are still protecting structures.
We were in downtown Denver when we got reports of this fire, and we could see it even there before we headed out here. That woman I spoke with, by the way, she lives in the Fox Hollow neighborhood, and she was getting things ready for the Super Bowl, making a green chili sauce. When she noticed that smoke near her home, she says she got out as quickly as she could.
Right as I was, my main concern, of course, was my animals. So I had to get my guys in the car, and then I just threw a few things together, and then a officer came to the door. At that point, I was pulling out when they were starting to knock on everybody's door.
And again, some of these flames still burning this afternoon, several hours after this fire started. These are hotspots that the fire departments are working to put out. The good news is that there are no homes or businesses threatened as of this moment, but those evacuations do remain in place as long as these hotspots are burning. We're going to get an update from West Metro Fire in a moment. We'll bring you that information as soon as we get it. Back to you, Jacqueline and Terry.
𝗘𝐿 Catholic Church in West Denver. The community spans generations. It's the second largest Latino parish in Colorado. People like Melanie Valadez and Angela Cobian feel safe here.
And this is where I went to church as a little kid.
Their elders feel the same.
They trust like the fathers and stuff, and the fathers who were before them.
So these women and so many others are leveraging that trust into vaccinations.
While everyone is welcome, we are specifically targeting elderly Latino people who are eligible for the vaccine.
Cobian says that targeted approach is critical in addressing the vaccine gap among communities of color.
So it was really important for us to be able to do that culturally competent outreach to people who we know, to our elders in our community, and to be able to make that ask and invitation of them to get their vaccine in a place that they trust. So I've been doing appointments all week.
At just 16, Melanie Valadez was a big part of that outreach. She personally scheduled many of the people here getting their first dose.
I mean, I'm just doing what I can.
Valadez and her youth group called hundreds of elders ahead of the clinic.
I want them to feel like they can go to a place that's safe for them. And since like a lot of, well, the Hispanic people that I know are Catholic, I mean, this is one of the safer places.
The goal is to vaccinate 1,000 people by Sunday evening.
And we are on track to do that.
One visit Valadez didn't schedule, a quick hello from Governor Jared Polis. Those here know there is still work to be done, and they plan to continue targeted efforts to protect their community.
It is our responsibility. Otherwise, we're going to continue to let inequities grow, and then we'll be ashamed
will be able
of
to
that.
sign up for a COVID vaccine starting Monday. The state is moving into phase 1B2. This group includes Coloradans 65 and up, K through 12 teachers, and all education support staff, also child care workers. The governor says that those 70 and up will still take priority and that people in this new category will need to be patient.
Some people have to wait. We just don't get enough vaccine every week. It's randomized, but we get about 90,000 a week. As we go to 65 and up, there's 288,000 people that are 65 and up. So it'll take through February to get everybody 65 and up.
Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine. It's being labeled by many medical professionals as a game changer.
It's not 2 shots, it's 1. And it does not require the cold storage that the Pfizer one is.
Making it easier to get to rural parts of America along with other countries. But we'll still have to wait a few more weeks before it gets authorized. Even though getting 1 shot is easier, it's still important to get vaccinated as soon as possible.
If you wait that long, there's still that chance where you can get infected with COVID. So if you're up, if your group is up, and you have the chance to get the 2-shot vaccine, get it.
Johnson & Johnson's vaccine have similar side effects to the other 2.
Thank you.